An exciting week lies ahead of us, and we're witnessing something historic right now, at least when it comes to Bitcoin, and that's happening without retail investors. Where is it headed in 2025? And what can we expect in the coming days? All this and much, much more in this video. A warm welcome to Crypto Yule. We're witnessing something historic right now. A new Bitcoin all-time high of over 120,000 US dollars, with an extreme number of shorts being liquidated. And now we're seeing the exact opposite. Longs being liquidated. We'll take a brief look at what awaits us in 2025 and most importantly, what's still to come this week. And at the end, we'll also check where the altcoins currently stand and which ones have good potential to rise. All of that right here. Don't miss it. Remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I see a lot of people who keep watching the channel always saying, hey, cool videos, but still haven't subscribed. So go ahead and catch up on that. And let's start with the market update on Bitcoin. And as you can see here, as you're all noticing, Bitcoin is making history right now, 120,000 US dollars. We've had an intense week behind us, a relaxed weekend, and then today, things just shot straight up. A huge number of shorts were liquidated here, and we'll take a closer look at all of that in a moment. I'm really curious to hear what you all think about this whole topic. So go ahead and write in the comments what's going on right now, and above all, where do you think things are headed? Exciting stuff, I'll just say it right away because it fits perfectly at the moment. Namely, if we look at the hourly chart here, we can see that in the last 3 hours or so, we've had this sharp downward movement. Before that, of course, there were some light profit takings, totally normal. And then the shorts came in liquidating some of the longs here, but it wasn't as bad as what happened on the way up. But we can see that short positions were opened here, and guess what happened next? Not long ago, there was fear about 80,000 Bitcoin. Here's a wallet that has now come back to life after many, many years. And now it's moving its Bitcoin. Oh no, are they going to the exchanges? Are they going to dump the price? No. They were simply distributed across 8 wallets, each with 10,000 Bitcoin. Maybe it's a retirement case. To this day, no one knows what's going on there. There are the wildest theories about it. And what just happened now? It fits exactly, or relatively exactly, to this time. And we can see here that at this moment, or rather it happened within this hourly candle. What happened there? A wallet according to Arkham, we're talking about a company here held a value of 8.6 billion US dollars, and these were moved to 8 new addresses. In total, 2.4 billion US dollars were moved. This is what the whole thing looks like. Here is the movement, and all of this led Toso. You can see here they bought in, and here 40 minutes earlier, plus the tweet, which is already a bit old as well. So it matches exactly with this hourly candle 2 hours ago at 3 p.m. There it is. So 3 p.m. UTC, we can see it. And then right after that, it went down. Once again, it fits perfectly. This news spreads and bam, the price drops. It's crazy. People are simply afraid that a large amount being transferred here. We can also look at the wallet. Arkansas CEM is making it transparent here. This is the new wallet where it was moved to, but it's not an exchange wallet. It's just a completely normal wallet. It's not Coinbase. It's not anything else. So there's no sale here. Just a simple transfer. Maybe they bought themselves a hardware wallet. No idea. It could be anything. And now they've said, we'll send it and just secure the whole thing. It could be anything. Maybe it is an exchange wallet after all, but perhaps for OTC trading or something like that. You just don't know. But for now, we're just seeing this movement and the drop in the Bitcoin price chart because people are starting to panic a little again. On the 4-hour chart, it looks a bit nastier. And yes, of course, there's also profit taking, short positions that have been opened, and this big move that has once again stirred up the market a bit. If you look at the whole thing from a long-term perspective, we of course see this interesting chart. I posted it all in our Telegram group. If you're not in there yet, check out the first link in the profile. That's how you can join our Telegram group. It's completely free. Just remember the rose task. We need a bit of spam protection because, well, it's crazy. When prices go up, those weird messages start coming in again too. Well, I wrote here that we're still following the money supply, and that's exactly how it looks right now. If we take a look at this chart, it looks very promising that the 122,000 US dollars, depending on which chart you use, 4-hour charts, daily chart, weekly chart, and so on here in the weekly chart, that should be it. The money supply is perfectly matched here at 122,556 US dollars. That's incredible. It's just crazy what's happened here. And we can see still following the money supply. So if we look at this in the long term, we're definitely in for some exciting times. Why was this breakout so extreme? We can see that here, these are short positions that were massively liquidated here. The analyst wrote that shorts worth 1.3 billion US dollars were liquidated here in less than 60 seconds. In the long term, it was even more within an hour. It was over 2.4 billion US dollars. It's incredible what happened here. And of course, all of this led to the following. When all the people who bet that Bitcoin would go down had their positions liquidated, and there were few counter positions, but many people going long on Bitcoin and also buying Bitcoin at the same time, which we'll get to in a moment, then naturally the price goes up, which is exactly what we saw in this case. We've seen this happen here before as well, but this time it was even nastier because the weekend was a bit quieter, a few short positions built up, and then they were liquidated very quickly. You can also see this on the hourly chart. These 3 hours here were a strong move, and then a new all-time high was set on top, each time after a small red hourly candle appeared in between. Exciting to watch. And this rise in Bitcoin isn't happening by accident. There's constant buying and more buying, mainly from institutional investors. We can see this in the Bitcoin ETF. Here we can see that there were massive purchases on Thursday and also on Friday, and it's very likely that there will be heavy buying again today. We're waiting for the numbers after the market closes, around 10:30 p.m., maybe a bit later. Then we'll see the latest figures for the ETF. Let's take a quick look at companies they also have an ETF. There's some buying going on there too, and the numbers on Thursday were very good, and before and after that, so Wednesday and Friday, they were completely fine, but it could be better. Thursday really stood out. Thursday was a very good day for crypto assets. We're also looking at the same thing here with Solana. Solana is included in the ETF in a roundabout way, so it's a bit more complicated. Thursday wasn't so great there. There was selling. Very interesting to observe, but we can see that the ETF is booming. The purchases in such an ETF are definitely happening. But we're seeing that retail investors who probably aren't buying through an ETF, but rather through crypto exchanges are currently buying less. At least, if you compare it to previous bull runs, it was always the case that retail investors and exchange activity only picked up after there was increased activity on Google Trends. So Google Trends is our friend at this moment because it gives us a bit of an indication of the current sentiment. What are regular people doing? Those who just type into Google, Bitcoin, where is it at? What's it doing? Where can I buy it? Right now, we're seeing fewer search queries, but of course, that's also because we're in the summer slump. If you just look at the last 90 days here, we can see that yes, in May, we had another spike. It was very high then. But that was mainly, or within the last 90 days, mainly in El Salvador, followed by Switzerland, then Nigeria, Austria, and also Germany. I was really surprised by this 90-day trend line. And right now, of course, it's shooting up. But if we look at just the last few hours, we can see that this line is relatively high, but I think there's still more potential. Currently, the top 5 regions searching are Switzerland, Austria, El Salvador, Singapore, and Slovenia within the last few hours. Let's take a look at the last 7 days. That's actually interesting as well. Here we see again Switzerland, El Salvador, Austria, Germany, and the Netherlands. So once again, Europe is fully represented here in the search queries. But since the ETF mainly has an influence, we can see that retail investors are probably not involved yet. However, past experience also shows us that retail investors usually get involved more in the fall and winter once the summer lull is over. For example, school holidays have just started here in North Rhine-Westphalia. That's why I think it will take another 8 to 10 weeks before retail investors are back in the game here. So, at the end of summer, I'm really curious to see if it will happen again just like that, because you know my theory. I've said it repeatedly and people always called me crazy. In 2024, we rushed through and everyone said, now it's taking off, now it's really happening. In fall and winter, yes, there were movements, but nothing extreme. Everyone said, no, that's it. Crypto dead, no bull market, never. That's it. Not in this cycle anymore, but we have to stick to the cycle. 2017, 2021, and what happens 4 years after 2021? Where are we right now? 2025, Bitcoin, new all-time high, and the fall and winter, they haven't arrived yet. I posted a tweet on X, and it stirred up a bit of criticism, or rather, there were some comments. I said, attention, Bitcoin will continue to rise, but don't be the last one to buy here. Because at some point, those who are buying now, mainly institutions, or through the Bitcoin ETF, they're obviously buying it now, and the Bitcoin price is going up. At some point, the retail investors will come the taxi driver, who will then say again overnight, ha, I made $100 with Bitcoin. That's the moment when the big players take their profits again, and the retail investors who jump in and say, now it's only going up, now it's really taking off, they're the ones who will lose their money. And the big investors, they get their exit liquidity. Yeah, there were comments like, well, what's so bad about the price going up? Actually, that's a good thing. Yeah. But the point is just to make you aware. If you want to buy, then buy now. And don't start saying in the fall and winter, now it's really taking off. Now it's going even higher, because at some point it'll be over. At some point, the price will fall again. So buy now and not later in the fall and winter. So here's a tip. If you want to buy cryptocurrency, check out our CryptoYule website, cryptoyule.com. It looks like this there. You'll find the latest events, exchange comparisons, which is really important. So take a look. That section will also be updated soon. A small update is coming. Wallet comparison, so if you want to buy a wallet. Or what's the latest with BitGet EU? Why should I buy Tangum? And there's also a BitGet credit card with 5% cashback and the Amazon Prime debit that's already over. And not BitGet, but Bybit EU, they've completely restructured themselves here, what you need to do and so on. But definitely check out the exchange comparison on our homepage, cryptoyule.com. Yes, and when Bitcoin rises, something else becomes interesting as well, namely all assets worldwide, which has now brought Bitcoin to a major position currently after this drop to 6th place. But just before this drop happened, we can see it here. The numbers are very close together. Bitcoin was even in 5th place this morning or around noon ahead of Amazon. And everyone immediately said, now Apple is going to drop, although the gap to Apple is still enormous. But it's very interesting to see that Bitcoin is holding its ground here. And as we know, gold is way out in front by a huge margin. And Nvidia, which is the first company to break the 4 trillion mark as a company, not as an asset like gold or, for example, Bitcoin, which is listed here as a cryptocurrency. It's really fascinating to watch all of this unfold. Microsoft follows Nvidia, but we already knew that. Yes, there's still a bit of a gap. So many experts have always said that Bitcoin will eventually move up to 3rd place. I'm very curious because there's still a long way to go to reach 3rd place. I'm very curious to see how all of this will develop. And since we're talking about Bitcoin numbers and statistics, let's take a quick look at that. The US Crypto Reserve, or rather the US Bitcoin Reserve, is a big topic. And all the small pieces of the puzzle in the US, meaning the smaller states, have of course also raised the question, why shouldn't we create a Bitcoin reserve? And the big issue here is that many are still in the process. That's the blue ones, so those who are still considering whether or not they should do it. The green ones have already established it. The red ones have ultimately rejected it. And the others, the gray ones, are still deliberating, or no decision has been made yet, or the topic hasn't even come up there. So we see 3 states here that also want to buy. And overall, it's going to be very interesting to see whether the individual states want to make purchases. That would be like our federal states making purchases. But overall, I'm very curious to see where things are headed in the US, because the federal government itself can also make purchases. So it's very exciting. Where things are headed on the Bitcoin chart in 2025 could be indicated by a 9-year-old trend. This is a very interesting trend, and it's 9 years old. We can now say it's a trend channel, a regression channel, just like I always draw them in my charts here. These are the regression channels here. Somehow we broke out, created a new one, moved wonderfully upward, and then dropped back down a bit, which fits 7 a little beyond it, but it will settle. If we redraw it here for 2 or 3, we can adjust it again in an hour, and it will stabilize a bit over the next 2, 3, or 4 hourly candles. Yes. And this 9-year-old trend, if you follow it and extend it to the end of 2025, so here it was completely, no, actually here is a turn of the year. If you just continue this straight from 2022 to the end of the year, then the creator, or rather the person who wrote all this, namely Bitcoin Archive, he created all of this. We all know him. It's a very good site if you want to check anything related to Bitcoin. Then we see here, we would have to meet somewhere around here at the end of the year, somewhere around here it should be. He says that the green linen knot, the very bottom, that's important. The green line would be at $228,000 for 1 Bitcoin. That's quite a number. I think a lot of people would go for that. And that would fit the theory that every 4 years there's a massive is at $228,000. I think a lot of people would sign up for that right away. That would be another $100,000 more than right now, roughly. Insane. So that's a trend. It's insane. And a lot of people can say, we'll take that. That would also send all the altcoins shooting up as well. We can count on that. speaking of altcoins, let's take a look at altcoins at the end of the video, and altcoins could get a boost this week. Because what's happening in the US this week? It's crypto week. Yes, that's really the case, no joke. Crypto week in the US. And this is what it looks like from the 14th of July, which is today, until the 18th of July. This period could be very significant for the markets. We have the Genius Act, which is an additional law for stablecoins. There was already a first draft of the law, and now it's supposed to be passed here. Then we have the anti-CBDC surveillance. So Donald Trump says he doesn't want CBDCs. He's more in favor of stablecoins. That's something we've heard recently. And he wants to push this surveillance to ensure there are no CBDCs. I'm very curious because the big question is, what happens if Donald Trump is gone? Will the next president come in and say, no, I actually like CBDCs, let's bring them back? So all of this can be changed quite easily. And then there's the Clarity Act. And there are all sorts of wild rumors about this Clarity Act because many people are saying, oh, now clarity is finally being established, just like with our MiCA regulation. Although with the MiCA regulation, the idea was, okay, we have digital assets here. What do we actually have already? Well, we have stocks and we have rules for those. Let's just tweak them a bit. And then we have the markets in crypto assets regulation. Great, the MiCA regulation. But at the end of the day, it's really not that much clearer. And that's what Donald Trump, or rather the Trump administration, wants to change by introducing the Clarity Acts for crypto regulations. And once again, there are all sorts of wild rumors going around. Now things are moving forward. Now there will be tax exemption in the USA. No, we have to be honest here. We have to consider, can a Trump administration, which is very pro-crypto, really say, look, tax exemption if you trade crypto, no matter if you go long, short, or just buy and sell, whatever, tax-free, you can trade crypto here? No, the move towards crypto is happening because they also want to make money with stablecoins. So they want to make money because Donald Trump himself is also involved with stablecoins, not him personally, but at least his family and his companies. And all of this, of course, leads to them being able to make money, while at the same time, US government bonds are rising. And yes, we know it, the national debt is very high, interest rates are still quite high, and the firing or supposed resignation, we still don't have 100% clarity of Jerome Powell, is likely to result in a new Federal Reserve, that is, a central bank chief being appointed, and this person could then push for interest rate cuts. Then the US could once again take on cheap debt. More money also means an increase in the global money supply. As the global money supply rises, Bitcoin chases after it. You know the chart I showed at the very beginning of the video. If things play out that way, so we have every reason to be very curious. If it really happens like that, well, that would be pretty intense. So we'll just have to keep watching to see how things develop. And yes, now there's so much focus on crypto, and then people talk about tax exemption for crypto. No, of course, they also want to generate profits for the state through crypto. That's why there's such an emphasis on crypto. So tax exemption for crypto, I think that is a absolutely out of the question, but maybe there will still be a huge surprise. Then you can imagine what would happen to cryptocurrencies if tax exemption on crypto profits were introduced in the US. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Now let's take a look at cryptocurrencies in general, specifically the fear and greed index, which is showing full on greed. So 74, or an indicator of 74 for greed. And we can also see here that the prices are all chasing after each other. We can see that here. Let's zoom out a bit. We want to see more. There's hardly any that are really in the red or moving sideways here, except for stablecoins, of course. You can also see USDS here. Never heard of it before. It's a new stablecoin. That's simply due to the new stablecoin regulations, which is why we're seeing new ones here, like USD1. So you can see new stablecoins are coming our way. DAI, also a stablecoin, and the BitGet token, which is an exchange token, that's also partly due to exchange activity. So it doesn't necessarily have to follow the trend. It depends on the exchange itself. Tether in this chart has gone up. You know, these are minimal cent amounts that go up and down. It simply depends on how all of them are printed and how they're used. And if there's a lot of demand or an oversupply, then it might briefly go down, but that's only temporary. In the long run, all-time higher, very important topic. Bitcoin broke through that. I'll activate the page now and let's see what it looks like at the moment. There's this site that already caused a stir in one of the last videos and also in one of the shorts, where a lot of people asked, where is it? Where's the link? Where did you get that? A lot of people message me privately asking, do you have the link for that? It's about the crypto price from the all-time high. And when you look here at how far cryptocurrencies are from their all-time highs, it's really interesting. These are the top 100. Of course, we can also select others, but the top 100 are particularly interesting here. Bitcoin is currently at 2%. Yeah, you saw it. There's a pullback happening right now. No question. So, of course, it's also a bit off its all-time high. By the way, how long ago was the all-time high? 10 hours. Very exciting. Ethereum, last all-time high, the 10th of November, 2021. Bull run 2021. So Ethereum will need this 2025 bull run again to set a new all-time high. We should be very curious. Currently, it's 38.1% below that all-time high, with the all-time high price just under $5,000. 4,878. You can look all of this up. By the way, you'll find the link below. XRP is only 12.6% away from its all-time high. But that all-time high was over 7 years ago. Incredible. Yeah, that's really interesting. We can see here how long ago these all-time highs were, and we can just convert the whole thing here. Here we see the FAST token, which hit its all-time high 2 hours ago. This build had its all-time high 5 months ago. And here, of course, Bitcoin and all the Bitcoin products. And then, of course, the stablecoins are coming as well. And then here, Pump from Pump Fund. Yeah, we'll probably see this token make a huge impact here. We can assume that they've managed to gather an enormous amount of liquidity, or rather money. They're going to use marketing to drive this Pump token up. We can count on that. But it's already at rank 60. We have to mention that too. So in terms of market capitalization, there isn't that much room to grow. But with this price of $0.0006, a lot of people will still buy in. We can assume that. Yeah, otherwise we can see how all the tokens are gone. As I said, these are the top 100. Here we can already see where the percentages are going. Let's scroll a bit to the middle. About 50% would be gone. We can see that here, for example, Solana is included as a well-known one, Ethereum with 38%, and so on. You can check all of this yourself if you're interested. As I said, I'll put the link for you down below. So, to sum up the video, we have information on how things are looking and the forecast for the end of the year. For example, Bitcoin at 228,000 US dollars. Not bad. I'd take that, wouldn't you? I'd sign up for that too. Let me know in the comments, would you sign up for that and take it right away? $228,000 per Bitcoin. I think a lot of people would agree with that. Then there's Crypto Week. I'm really curious to see what surprises they have in store for us over the next 3 days. So today, tomorrow, and the day after. We'll be covering the whole Clarity Act topic. So everything about regulatory clarity for cryptocurrencies in the US. I'm really curious to see where all this is headed. Share your predictions. What do you think? Where is it all going? What could happen? Tax exemption, I think that's absolutely out of the question. But what did we learn during the Donald Trump administration? Nothing is impossible. That would be the ultimate surprise. And then prices would skyrocket again. So, what else? It's exciting to see what's happening right now. New all-time highs, it just keeps going up. And otherwise, all I can say is check out our website, cryptoworld.com. Don't forget about our Telegram group. Like and subscribe. You know the drill. With that, I want to say thank you for watching and see you in the next video.